The TiteFx is a suction-coupled bipolar RF system, sucking the fat into the chamber, heating that fat and dermis with basic radiofrequency energy. When it reaches the therapeutic endpoint, 42-43 degrees, high voltage electrical pulses are emitted. These create an electroporation, irreversible transmembrane damage, and an apoptotic death of adipose tissue, which then contours and remodels after a series of treatments. There's a 15% increase in collagen and up to 30% apoptotic adipocyte, non-necrotic cell death. Hello and welcome. My name is Dr. Stephen Mulholland, plastic surgeon in Toronto, Canada, and you're on an Invasix in-mode webinar for the TiteFx. TiteFx is one of the most exciting new products to the aesthetic space. It's a product that leads to permanent fat cell death through apoptosis and a new mechanism. And our webinar today will go into exactly how that happens. Not only that, it's a synchronous thermally controlled RF skin tightening device. So you get fat reduction on one hand with skin tightening, and on the other hand you have a long-term cellulite improvement product. Again, all in one applicator. If you look at the TiteFx device, it comes on a number of options for platform delivery. You can have just the standalone TiteFx as your permanent fat reduction, skin tightening, and cellulite improvement module, or you can build other modules on it, as you can see over here, the Fractora fractional resurfacing, the Fractora firm, non-ablative thermally modulated for the face and for the body. Again, a very versatile platform in the aesthetic space, the most innovative RF, non-invasive and invasive, if you're using body tight system right now available to aesthetic practices. This is the actual TiteFx. We're going to go through how it works, what's involved. Very simple to hold, very ergonomic. It's suction coupled RF delivery that is thermally modulated and regulated. Two types of RF, basic RF and high voltage pulsing, leading to irreversible electroporation. We'll explain what that means. If we zoom out slightly, you can see that it has a little stand that it sits on, very easy to look after. It plugs into the console. And on the console, you can have the TiteFx plugged in at any given time, or any one of the skin modules. The Fractora RF resurfacing, which has its own webinar. Very exciting product for tissue tightening, wrinkle reduction, texture. Make sure you watch that. And then two other products, non-ablative, thermally modulated. That's thermally controlled, automatic on and off controls for non-ablative RF tightening, with the Firm for the face and the Firm Plus for the body. Each of these have its own webinar as well. All of them plug into the same console and power supply. If you look at the menu here, you've got a number of options deciding on what aesthetic applicator you want to deploy in your practice. Body Tight is the not yet FDA approved radiofrequency assisted liposuction. Down below, that's Face Tight, Neck Tight. The bottom three are all available for aesthetic practices everywhere in the world. There's been over 800 of these systems sold, a very successful aesthetic launch for Invasix, this new company. You simply dial down to what you want, and this webinar is going to be about the TiteFx. When the TiteFx is plugged in, you will see on the top of the handpiece that it's activated. It says TiteFx. This little LCD display screen will also tell you the temperature, tissue temperature at any given time. Let's put that down now and let's go back to the screen. When you want to use the TiteFx, and that's the one you have activated, you simply hit the check mark and up will come the TiteFx screen. Now, you'll see during the webinar, we get control the amount of energy, the number of watts we're going to use. I typically treat at 50 watts, so we'll dial that up to 50. Once you get to 50 watts of energy, you can control the endpoint, the thermal endpoint. This is a thermally modulated RF delivery system, like an air conditioner. It turns on and off the RF because it's monitoring epidermal temperature and impedance at all times. In general, to get therapeutic tissue tightening, you want to heat you want to heat that skin up to. We use our menu to get down to temperature. We want to get an end point. The end point is usually 42 to 44 degrees, depending on what patients can tolerate. And so there's 42 degrees Celsius. When it gets to 42 degrees, it will turn off the RF. It will warn you 2 degrees prior to that with double beeping. So it's an auditory warning, thermally modulated basic RF system. When you get to your endpoint, it releases a second kind of RF, not the basic 1 million cycles per second RF that you get with most of the RF systems on the market, but a new type of RF. Ultra short, nanosecond, ultra high voltage, 2 kilovolts per pulse, synchronous high voltage pulsing. We can also control the pulse duration from 2 seconds up to 5 seconds. I like very short pulse durations and moving around the tissue quickly. We're going to move down to what's called the second RF. Second RF is triggered at the thermal endpoint, 42, 43, or 44 degrees. And that second RF is the fat killing RF. This induces irreversible electroporation or damage to the cell membrane. And I'll go over that during the PowerPoint so you understand exactly what I'm saying. And we'll often set that initially to about 5 trains of high voltage pulses. There's a train of them with each one of these. So there's 5 trains of a series of ultra short nanosecond pulsed high voltage 2 kilovolt pulses. The amplitude and the ultra short pulse duration exceed the recharging capacity of that cell membrane of the adipocyte and lead to an apoptotic death and up to 30% of the fat cells in the field of treatment. But when you're first treating, you want to get them used to the temperature. Want to get them used to the suction, which is usually about 300 millibars of suction. It shows you the suction here. And you want to get them used to high voltage pulsing. So the very first session, try them at 5, then 7, then maybe 10 high voltage pulses. And every other session after that, 10 high voltage pulses. And again, we can see the real-time temperature and the desired temperature. When it gets to that desired temperature with the real-time temperature, it cuts off the basic RF and you get high voltage pulsing. When the temperature drops to 0.1 degrees Celsius below that, it will start giving basic RF to heat up that tissue to endpoint again. It samples epidermal temperature about 10 times every millisecond. It also keeps track of the total treatment time. We know that we need to be on tissue with high voltage pulses for 10 minutes to get efficacious apoptosis and tissue tightening, and it tracks the number of kilojoules that are needed to treat. So that's the treatment screen. When we're ready, we simply press ready. Then we're ready for the TiteFx treatment. Now, of course, we're going to need a patient to treat. So I'll walk through how to mark out the patient, the strategies of reducing convex distensions like the abdominal pot, the hips, love handles, the outer inner thigh, inner knee, the bra line, the arms, all very versatile areas that the versatile applicator can treat. So this is a very versatile applicator, the TiteFx. If you zoom out a bit, it will allow us to treat multiple areas of the body, which most body contouring systems don't. There is no disposable, and it gives 3 things: skin tightening, up to 15% more collagen and elastin in a series of 6 treatments. It gives permanent fat reduction, and it gives cellulite improvement. So let's bring in our patient. I'll mark out the patient as I typically would for a convex distension or focal reduction of fat. Let's bring our patient in here who's going to undergo the TiteFx treatment today for focal fat reduction and skin tightening of the abdominal area. Come on in. We have our volunteer here today, Christine. She's had 1 or 2 of these treatments before, and so we're going to lift up the robe here. And now it's very important when you're doing the TiteFx treatment to, first of all, mark out the area you're going to treat. Treat it just like you would liposuction. Just like liposuction, you want to mark out the area of convex distension. And you want to spend more time on the top of the mountain to bring the top down than equally around the foothills. You want to bring the mountain down, just like you spend more time liposucking under the thickest part of that distension. So if you think of that convex distension, the outer thigh, inner thigh, or tummy, as a mountain that tapers to the foothills, you want to spend more time in the center. So you want to mark this out properly before doing a TiteFx treatment. So you take some type of marker that will come off when the patient cleanses with some isopropyl alcohol. And you want to look at the areas that bug the patient. This is a very common area, this little central tummy and pot. Some will be intra-abdominal and muscle weakness, particularly in postpartum women. What you can affect is what you can pinch, the fat. And in general, as you'll see during the PowerPoint, the TiteFx, like Liposonics, like Zeltique, like UltraShape, We'll be able to melt about 4 to 6 centimeters off an abdomen and 2 to 4 centimeters off an outer thigh after a series of treatments. That fat will be dead, apoptotic. And we'll explain during the PowerPoint how that happens. But first you want to mark out the area. So you do it with the patient in front of the mirror. You mark out the little area of the pot. And everyone's got a different configuration of this pot. And then we're going to divide this in half with TiteFx. We're going to treat one half for 10 minutes and the other half for 10 minutes. And I'll explain during the PowerPoint why 10 minutes. You want to mark out the high point of that pot because you spend more time there than the smaller areas laterally. Again, the high point of that pot centrally, and then less time laterally. We're going to spend 10 minutes on tissue with therapeutic high voltage pulsing. So you don't start the timer till you get to your end point, which is 42, 43, 44 degrees, and you're starting to discharge high voltage pulses. Then you start the timer. 10 minutes, 10 minutes. Each zone takes 20 minutes to treat. About once a week for 6 to 8 weeks, depending on your protocol. However, 10 minutes on tissue time at 44 degrees can be a bit sensitive. So we often do 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes. So total time, 10 minutes divided into 5-minute segments and 10 minutes divided into 5-minute segments. So that's generally the same. Now, if you're going to be doing the hip and the hip, again, it would be 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes. Mark out the central convexity in the high points, so you spend more time there. If it's the outer thigh, outer thigh, outer thigh, one zone. Inner thigh, one zone. Arm, arm, back, back, inner knee, inner knee. So in general, economically, a zone is measured as 2 hands. Unless you happen to be a basketball player, it's going to be 2 hands. And that 2 hands is an economic zone. It can be the lower tummy. If you have the upper tummy, that's a zone and a half. Hip, hip, that's 2 hands, that's 1 zone. Outer thigh, inner thigh, inner thigh. Each of those is 1 zone. So if we zoom out a bit, we've got our patient marked out. Now the important thing you need to do, you're doing a TiteFx treatment every week. 6 to 8 treatments. Multiple treatments are good. Number 1, you're going to get synchronous skin tightening, up to 15% more collagen elastin. Number 2, you're going to ensure a circumferential reduction. You're going to be able to sequester that patient a series of treatments in a good service environment to cross-merchandise and cross-sell. You want to make sure you measure that patient's weight every week. Make sure that they are at least weight neutral. If they lose some weight, fine, but they should not be gaining weight. And every week you're going to do circumferential measurements with a tape measure. If you happen to have a B-mode ultrasound, find a standard point and measure the thickness of the fat that you're reducing. Almost every device I have, in fact all of them, are no longer single treatment protocols. Zeltique, 2 or 3 treatments, multiple cycles. UltraShape, series of 3 treatments over 6 weeks. And Liposonics, same thing. So multiple treatments in the fat contour space is a good thing. You want to secure patients' dissatisfaction if it's not improving, up the energy, up the focus. You want to guarantee multiple visits so you can cross-merchandise and cross-sell your other services. So we're going to bring on our esthetician. This is something that I don't do. As physicians, TiteFx and Firmia are generally going to delegate. This is a passive revenue generation opportunity. Delegate it to your medical assistants, your medical estheticians, your PAs, or your nurses, depending on state and regulated environment. So we're going to bring in Christine. She's going to do a superficial measurement. And then I'll do an initial treatment just to show you how it works. So again, every week we measure the weight, measure the circumferential thickness of the area you're treating so you can show the improvements. And then, of course, if you have B-mode ultrasound, measure the thickness of the fat. So let's zoom out a bit and we'll bring in Christine, and she's going to measure at standard points that circumferential measurement at the highest point of the convex distension. So Christine, come on in and just do the measurement and we'll know the number, because at the end of the treatment, in general, at the end of the treatment, I like to tell our treatment delegates to tell patients, even at the first treatment, they're going to notice half a centimeter improvement. Now, a lot of that is edema, mobilization of edema, because it's a suction-coupled RF system. But patients love it when they get that immediate result. Some will be some dermal tightening. And so every time, make sure you do a circumferential measurement, B-mode ultrasound thickness, if you have it, and of course, weight. So Christine, what's our measurement today?
We have 86.5 centimeters.
So 86 centimeters, and after, when I'm doing the PowerPoint, Christine's going to do the treatment at the end. We want to see that we're down to, 85 or 84 and a half centimeters to give that, excitement to the patient right out of the first treatment. So let's go to the table, and I'll walk you through a very slow conceptual TiteFx treatment, and then we'll hand it off to Christine. I'm going to walk you through the initial experience the patient should have. They've got to get used to three things with TiteFx: suction coupling, basic RF thermal skin heating, and second RF, high voltage pulsing for electroporation that ultimately gives the adipocyte-cidal effect. The applicator, very simple, very ingenious, designed again by Dr. Mishka Krendel, who is the founder of the company, founder of Syneron, one of the principals in Energy System Corporation and Luminous, developed IPL, long pulse YAG optical combination, ELOS with Syneron, and the Vela shape. Very knowledgeable guy, came up with a very cool system. All the cool stuff's in the applicator. The high voltage pulse generator, the display that gives you the epidermal temperature at all times, and it cuts it off at the endpoint that you set, 42 to 44 degrees. The undersurface, or the active element, is, if you zoom in, 2 RF electrodes, which is suction coupled. There is no optical component to this. There are little plastic stalagmites at the top that prevent the soft tissue from being sucked and obliterating the central port. The central port measures epidermal temperature at all times. It measures suction force, and it measures tissue impedance, high and low, and it will cut off around that, allowing a completely thermally controlled RF delivery. Thermally controlled RF delivery. When it gets to the endpoint, remember, basic RF shuts off and second RF, high voltage pulsing, is released. As it drops 0.1 degrees Celsius below your thermal endpoint, boom, on comes the first RF again, heats it up. When it gets to the endpoint, second RF's delivered. So you want to get to the endpoint of 44 degrees, and then you start counting. 10 minutes per area, 10, 10, divided into 5, 5, 5, and 5. So 20 minutes of treatment time per tissue zone. Each zone is measured again, 2 hands. Okay? Very easy to use, very ergonomic. There's no rollers, no elbow and shoulder workman's compensation claims. Very simple to use. Okay? Now let's go back to our patient here. And if you look at the face first thing you notice, it looks kind of erythematous, red and swollen. Zoom in on the face a bit. Just look into the camera there. And what we have here is a patient who underwent Fractora total facial resurfacing with the 3000 micron tip and the 60 pin tip. Zoom out and let's see the tummy. What this means is we've had an opportunity to take one single platform, to use the Fractora and cross-market to a permanent fat reduction technology. One of the big advantages of this system, it gives you so many options to treat patients, multiple revenue streams, up to 9 revenue streams on this single platform. All of them very cool, very differentiated, none of them me too. Each one of these applicators has a very unique intellectual property story and therapeutic effect. So if we look at our zone, zoom in here, we've got our periumbilical pot. Remember our strategy. We're going to heat to the endpoint, 42, 43, 44 degrees, and then start firing high voltage pulses. We want to treat for 10 minutes on an area, but we'll divide that into 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes. If this was the outer thighs, you do one outer thigh for 5 minutes, the other one for 5 minutes, first one for 5 minutes, second one for 5 minutes. Total on time for the whole area is 20 minutes. Okay? Now, again, we're going to take this suction-coupled applicator and we're going to walk the patient the very first time through what suction feels like. So I'll do a few pulses so they get used to 350 millibars of suction. So we're going to hit the ready button. We're set at 50 watts. You can go back to the system. Just show the system there if we can zoom in. Again, we've set this, if you zoom right in, at 50 watts of energy. 40 degrees Celsius, that's not our endpoint. I want them to get used to suction and heat first, and 0 for second RF. We'll gradually go up during the first few minutes to get them used to this. Zoom back to the tummy now, or pan to the tummy. This is foot pedal controlled. We've hit the ready button. You simply put it in place, moderate amount of pressure, and press the foot pedal. I can see on the top it's telling me epidermal temperature at all times. So I can see we're starting about 30 degrees. We're going to raise that to 40. So we put our device on the skin, press the button, you hear the suction, and you can feel that suction. The patient has a little erythema from the suction. We overlap 50%, just like fractura resurfacing, 50%. And we're going to heat for 2 seconds, and we overlap 50%. Let the patient get used to suction. We're already up to 33 degrees, so there's a little bit of warming, a little bit of suction. Ask the patient, is that reasonably comfortable? So comfortable with the suction. The inner thighs are sometimes a little more sensitive when it comes to suction, so make the patients used to and comfortable to with the technology. And just zoom out a little bit. Perfect. Just show the whole applicator. That's great, just like that. So we're overlapping about 50%. I can see the temperature reading on the top. We're up around 35 degrees. Normally it takes less than 60 seconds to get your zone to therapeutic endpoint. I know what my temperature is at all times because of the LCD screen on the top, and you can hear a slow beep in the background. That slow beep is telling you there's RF energy, so the end of that 2 seconds starts to get a little sensitive, correct? So the rate of rise of temperature is important. So sometimes I just take my foot off the pedal every second and move quickly around the area without taking it to 2 seconds. That way the rate of rise is lower. We're overlapping 50% each time. 50% each time. I'll show you the erythema you'll get here. Much nicer when it's not so long a pulse duration, correct? Correct. Patients agreeing that sometimes 2 seconds of sustained heating is too rapid a rise of temperature. So simply take your foot off the foot pedal and move around quickly. We've been treating about 30 seconds. We're about 37 degrees now. We're very close to our endpoint of 40. Now that's not our endpoint ultimately, but we want you to get used to suction coupled thermal stimulation. So I'm going to raise this, get this up to around 40. You hear the double beeping now. In a second you'll hear some double beeping. That double beeping is warning me I'm close to my endpoint. And when you get to triple beeping, it stops. It cuts off the basic RF and it wants to release second RF. There it stopped. And it's recharging as you release second RF. But I didn't set any second RF. You can see it's 40 degrees. Zoom in there. 40 degrees, so I can tell at all times, and it cuts it off. It's thermally modulated basic RF, 1 million cycles per second of radio frequency stimulation for dermal tightening. How deep does this go? This goes, sends RF 2.5 centimeters, extremely deep. What you see superficially, because RF travels half the distance and it's already sucked up 9 millimeters, the depth of penetration that we study with thermocouplers, 2.5 centimeters, the deepest, most uniform RF system on the market. You're going to be about 1 degree higher than the epidermal temperature. So if it's 44 on the skin, it's about 45, 2.5 centimeters down. Once you're more than 2.5 centimeters, the temperature falls off to non-therapeutic. So now that she's used to 40 degrees, let's take it up to therapeutic, 44. Wait, let's go back, show the machine now. Zoom in on the console and tilt down a bit. Excellent. Now slowly move in and go to the temperature setting. So use the menu button. Tilt your hand down because we can't see. Come around the applicator. There you go. Now come under the applicator. That's it. And now we're at temperature. Now go over to the up button. You raise the temperature up to 42 degrees. And let's give her some basic second RF. Go to the menu button under the cords. Beautiful. And now go up to 5. Go slowly up to 5. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Each one of these numbers is a train of up to 20 ultra short nanosecond pulse duration, high amplitude 2.5 kilovolt amplitude pulses. That's high voltage pulsing. That is what kills the fat cell. Now come back to me. We're going to hit the ready button and we're ready to go. Now take a look here. We've got a little erythema, which is from the suction and the heating. Now we're going to take it up to therapeutic endpoint. Therapeutic endpoint is 42, 43, or 44 degrees epidermal temperature, which is 1 degree higher, usually up to 2.5 centimeters down. Whatever the patient can tolerate. Most can tolerate 42, some 43, and some 44 degrees. You want to get it at least to 42 degrees. So now we're going to do the same thing and get her used to a higher temperature with suction. This time, when we get to the end point of 42 degrees, it's going to continuously discharge high voltage pulses, the therapeutic apoptotic second RF. And again, now we're going to get back up to our endpoint. It gets warm when you go rapidly rate of rising. So every second, don't wait for the end of the pulse duration. Just pick it up and move it every second. Overlap about 50%. And we'll quickly get up to 42 degrees. And she already knows what the suction feels like. She knows what the temperature feels like. And as you can see, I'm staying at the height of the mountain here, bringing down the central convex distension. Now you can treat up to 3 areas in an hour. Very, very versatile device. 3 areas in an hour. And again, we're up, you'll get double beeping when you get within 2 degrees of your endpoint, which will warn you you're getting close. You can also see through the LCD, you might want to zoom out a little bit there. You can see with the LCD, you can see the endpoint already looming. We're getting close to 40 degrees. Again, pick it up every second so it doesn't lead to a rapid rate of rise of epidermal temperature, which is painful. Once we get to 40, we're going to get some double beeping because we're going to get close to 42. I'm going to warn the patient that we're going to get a high voltage pulse at 42 degrees, and I tell them, that's killing your fat, very loudly, because when they know it's killing their fat, they're more likely to tolerate a different sensation than something that seems random. So we're at 40 degrees now. You're going to start to hear some double beeps. And in a second, you're going to hear some double beeping. There's double beeping. And so about a minute you can get your endpoint. We're almost 42. So you're going to feel an electrical shock in a second right there. That electrical shock is a high voltage pulse. Once you get high voltage pulses everywhere and it constantly maintaining epidermal temperature by shutting on and off, then you start your timer. And again, getting to 42. You don't have to worry about overheating because it has an automatic cutoff like an air conditioner. So you get your endpoint, you move around, and you discharge at 42 degrees. Some will tolerate 43 or 44, your high voltage pulses. And in a couple of seconds, it's going to be nothing but high voltage pulses. And 1 sec, now we're going to have some more high voltage pulses. And if she can tolerate that at level 5, then we're going to move up to level 7 and level 10 of high voltage pulses. As you can see, more high voltage pulses. That flat, monotone, audible, that is the high voltage pulse. You wait for it to recharge and you keep going. So I'm moving around here, maintaining 42 degrees. Why? It's thermally modulated, on and off. Our basic RF for heating. Why do we want basic RF? Skin tightening. We want 15% more collagen if we're going to melt the fat. Why the high voltage pulses? We got to kill the fat. So this is the best combined system out there that gives you skin tightening and fat melting. And so let's take a look at this. This is the endpoint. We're going to go up to now RF level, second level 10. So let's give her 10 high voltage, a train of 10 high voltage pulses. And now press ready. So the first treatment, you walk them through this. They have a very nice epidermal erythema, and they've understood what suction and high voltage pulse and heat feels like. Now we're going to complete the cycle by getting a therapeutic amount of trains of high voltage pulses. So she's going to feel a little stronger electrical stimulation, which is the 10 trains of 10 high voltage pulses. You hear the double beep when we're almost there again, our 42 degree endpoint. Very nice that it thermally modulates this. There's no other system on the market that measures and controls basic RF to keep you very nicely around where you want to be. Now that's a high voltage 10 of train of high voltage pulses at 10. Did that feel acceptable? That's killing your fat.
Yes.
Yes, indeed. Most women, when they know it's killing their fat, find it very acceptable. And so all body contouring systems that really work, like liposonics, which is also thermal HIFU, can be uncomfortable. Zeltiq can have some post-sensory nerve dysesthesia. This is a very specific high voltage pulse, only focusing on fat. There's a little bit discomfort, but very, very tolerated by patients, and it leads to skin tightening and fat melting. So once the patient's used to that, zoom in here, you see a very, very warm area. We would start the timer. 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, back for a second 5 minutes, and the last 5 minutes. Total on time, 10 minutes each area. And during the PowerPoint, I explain why that 10 minutes is important. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to hand this off to Christine, because this is the delegable back technology, delegable to your medical esthetician, your PA nurse, or your medical assistant for permanent fat reduction and skin tightening. So let's bring in Christine over here, and she can continue on the treatment. I'll hand this off. And so Christine, just begin your treatment, and we'll treat for about 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes on each area. Christine will continue her treatment there, starting on the other side. Now that the patient is used to the sensation, every time she comes for a TiteFx, you jump right into your final settings. 42 to 44 degrees epidermal temperature that's delivered by your thermally modulated on and off basic RF. When you get to that endpoint, turning on and off, every time it's at the endpoint, it releases high voltage trains of high voltage pulses. We're going to go to the PowerPoint, explain how TiteFx works, why it's so exciting, and why it's so versatile. When we're done, we'll have a look at Christina's results, and we'll do a tape measure circumferential measurement. So what we're going to do is I'm going to bring in Christine. We'll stand up our patient as we finish here today. We'll measure her circumferential reduction. And the nice thing about this, right on the table, you'll see results. You're not waiting 6 to 12 weeks, 3 months like Zeltiq to see if there's a result, or like liposonics where you're waiting to see if there is a result and you do a series of treatments over time. You see results immediately. So let's bring in Christine. We'll stand up our patient and measure that circumferential reduction. Let's have our patient stand up now, and we'll see the efficacy of our TiteFx treatment today on the abdominal pot. So we'll remove our little blanket here. I'll take that off for you. And what I'm going to get you to do, go ahead and stand up here on our stool again, and just turn and face the camera, and just hold back the robe there. And again, if you zoom in here, you can see the intense erythema on the tissue. That is the heat sink that fat acts as. And you can see, despite holding that for 42 to 44 degrees for 10 minutes an area, 5, 20-minute treatment time, divide into 10 minutes, but in 5-minute treatment times. You don't start counting till you get to that epidermal endpoint and discharge high voltage pulses. There's no blisters, very low risk, if any risk of burning, because you've got the thermally modulated feedback. Turns on and off the temperature, the endpoint that you're looking for. No system like that on the market right now. So let's bring in Christine, and let's do our big reveal, which we like to do each time with the patient, where we do our circumferential reduction. And in my practice, I would also bring out our B-mode ultrasound and measure the actual thickness. So those are the endpoints I use. B-mode ultrasound, circumferential reduction, patient weight. I have a guarantee. I believe in this product. It works very, very consistently. If your technician follows that protocol that we just went through, very, very few, if any, patients won't respond with some apoptosis. That high voltage pulse is basically developed around the biology and physiology of that bilipid membrane of the adipocyte. It works. They'd have to have super fat cells to be resistant to high voltage pulsing. The human body is amazing. There's always some patients don't respond, but it's only about 1 or 2%. So give away a month of free treatments 1% of the time to secure happiness. So let's take a look at how we're doing now. You did the measurement, and how are we?
Well, we started 86 and we're finishing 84.
So a 2-centimeter change from 86 to 84. Patients love that when you have that on the table. Very first treatment, of course. It's edema mobilization. It's some immediate skin tightening because we haven't had time for apoptosis. So we mentioned to the patient, we've got some initial shrinking from tissue tightening and removing some edema. But over the series of treatments, we'll replace that with dead fat cells. So TiteFx, a wonderful product, a very innovative product, a very revenue positive product, the kind of product that you can bring into your practice and you can use for cellulite, for fat reduction, and tissue tightening. I hope you've enjoyed the webinar. I trust the TiteFx will be as successful in your practice as it has been in mine. So many happy profits. Thank you.
Ladies, don't let those dimples get you down.
As we get older, it doesn't get any better.
So join the fight against cellulite. Whether high-tech procedure, slimming garment, or even a caffeine cream, get the Jiggle Buster that's right for you.
The News Hour, tonight at 6 on Global Toronto.
And tried everything to get rid of cellulite? A new treatment you'll want to try. All right, thank you, Rob. Also ahead, new treatments for cellulite promise to reduce or even get rid of it. Do they work? We've got the before and after evidence coming up. Ladies, don't let those dimples get you down.
As we get older, it doesn't get any better.
Join the fight against cellulite with a high-tech procedure, a slimming garment, or even a caffeine cream. We've got the Jiggle Buster that's right for you. Isn't that great? You know what else is great about being a woman?
Tell me.
A whole bunch of things, but cellulite isn't one of them.
But Good news here tonight, Anna.
Yes.
There are new treatments being used to battle those dimples, and the secret could be found in your morning cup of coffee, apparently. With more, here's Mina Ree.
See the jiggle? See? It's not pretty.
For some women, it just won't go away, no matter how hard they exercise. Marlene Gagnon wishes she could cut her cellulite off.
In my mind, I always say, well, sometimes it would be nice just to take a saw, I guess, and say, get rid of this.
Yeah, with this light, you can actually really see quite well.
Gail Filarski is plagued by the same thing, dimpling, which is often compared to an orange peel.
As you get older, it doesn't get any better. You just don't look there after a while.
Up to 80% of females will develop cellulite.
We know that the fat in that area swells up and bulges. We know that there's some bands, some fibrous bands that pull down and create those little mattress indentations. And we know there's poor lymphatic drainage.
After decades under wraps, both women decide to try the latest high-tech cellulite busting treatments. Gail chooses TiteFx.
It's actually sending an electroporation to the cell and damaging the fat cell.
It's said to be 30 to 40% effective.
And that popping is the cooking of the cellulite.
Marlene takes the surgical route with Cellutite, which is carried out using a local anesthetic.
Once you've heated the tissue and removed the cellulite, it's replaced by smooth, even, normal bands of collagen. And I'm seeing 60, 70, 80% improvement with some of these deep dimples.
And could the drug that makes you feel jittery after too many cups of coffee also help fight the flab? Turns out caffeine temporarily restricts blood vessels, making the skin appear smoother. Not only is it showing up in anti-cellulite products, scientists have now figured out a way to embed it into clothing too.
It's the patented 3D weave that is doing all the work for you.
Then there's hosiery that uses microcirculation to break up fatty deposits.
It is a true therapeutic product, so it has a medical device license from Health Canada.
Hormones, genetics, diet, and lifestyle may all play a part in the formation of cellulite, but that doesn't mean you have to live with it anymore. Mina Ree, Global News.
The big misconception is that men aren't doing it. They are in big numbers.
The procedures more men than ever are having to transform into Jersey Shore studs.
Up next, the situation with men's plastic procedures.
The big misconception is that men aren't doing it. They are in big numbers.
Plastic surgeon Dr. Mulholland reveals the most popular and most efficient ways to get those washboard abs.
This is called TiteFx, and this is one of the many systems that we use to melt fat.
Our Plastics Week has explored the lengths people go to look like the stars.
While we don't endorse any of these procedures, tonight Toronto surgeon Dr. Mulholland lets us in on a little secret. Women aren't the only ones seeking enhancements.
Warning, some of the footage is graphic.
Well, we're talking men today. What are some of the biggest misconceptions with men and cosmetic procedures?
One of the big misconceptions is that men aren't doing it. They are in big numbers.
The procedures in highest demand? Well, thanks to a certain reality show, men are looking for six-pack abs and a full head of hair.
The situation, which is the rectus abdominis, the stomach muscle visibility, there's non-surgical options to melt fat without surgery.
Let's talk about the hair because of Jersey Shore fame as well. Pauly D, obsessed with his hair.
Hair transplantation has the stigma of the big scar at the back, and that's limited a lot of men who want to do this. We have a new technique now available called NeoGraft, where we can take 1 and 2 and 3 little hair families at a time without the scar and move them to the front.
So first up, to obtain that certain situation, Dr. Mulholland demonstrates a new non-invasive fat zapping technique.
This is called TiteFx, and this is one of the many systems that we use to melt fat. This device delivers radio frequency energy, and it heats up the fat, and then there's a high voltage shock that actually kills the fat cell.
So how many procedures would you need?
It depends on the technology, but generally you need a number of procedures, between 4 and 8 procedures, and over 6 to 8 weeks, we can melt 2 or 3 inches off a man's abdominal contour.
Now to achieve Pauly D's thick head of hair, Mulholland recommends hair implantation, which literally takes hair from one section and replaces it in another.
I sneak up on the hair follicle family, and I come down on top of it. I do a little push. There it is, take it away.
Snatch that guy?
And snatch it. That's simple. And then we take the chamber, and I'm going to take the hairs out, put them on my thumb. This sucks them up into the little chamber. It basically sucks the hair up, puts them in the little chamber, I press a pedal, and a little metal rod comes down and puts it in the hole that you create. Now you can pull about 1,000 little families per hour. And the hair follicles in there.
In his new home.
In his new home.
Awarded Best Newscast, The News Hour with Leslie Roberts and Ann Roskowski.
Curse of the muffin top, how to camouflage the muffin stuffing, and the non-surgical ways to rid your midriff of that stubborn fat. But first, our top stories of the day.
The News Hour begins right now.
Awarded Best Newscast, The News Hour with Leslie Roberts and Ann Roskowski.
The name may sound delicious, but if you're watching your figure, having a muffin top is anything but.
Muffin tops can be resistant to exercise too. So what's a gal or a guy to do? Well, the experts weigh in. Here's Global's Mina Ree.
It's the spillage that can follow you around and be visible to all.
The worst equation is wearing tight pants and then a little top, belly top. That's a no-no.
The dreaded muffin top, not a good look by anyone's standards.
You can't really help it. If you're riding a bike, I don't know.
Some prefer to call them love handles.
It's kind of cute.
Really? In what way?
You can just grab onto it.
But most people will tell you muffin tops are only scrumptious when they're sitting atop baked goods.
You've got a tire, a round circumferential chunk of fat that hangs over in a very annoying fashion.
It's a total vicious cycle.
Hormonal imbalance could be the reason why those spare tires won't budge with sit-ups.
The more cortisol you produce, the more fat we know goes to the midsection, and that's because of a lack of sleep, too much stress at work or at home. High sugar foods are a huge stress on the body.
So you feel a little jolt in a second, right there. And
turns out women are more prone to it, particularly after menopause when the balance between estrogen and progesterone shifts.
You're going to feel that again. It's a bit uncomfortable.
Plastic surgeons say they can electrocute some of that flab into submission.
There's about 4 inches of fat. The non-surgical treatments like TiteFx will melt half of that. So the muffin top won't be flat, but it'll be half as annoying. Usually it's about 6 weeks till you start to see the muffin top folding back.
But camouflaging that protrusion doesn't have to be painful.
A bit of silicone on the edge that prevents it from rolling as well.
Oh, it sticks.
But if you can see, it has the seams in all the right places, and it doesn't show panty lines.
And who says shapewear has to be dowdy? They can double as lingerie too.
So it'll be a little bit stronger in here, and it'll soften and get a little stronger around the side.
This is gorgeous, but it's pink. Like, who's gonna wear a pink undergarment?
You would be so amazed. This is virtually invisible under white.
That's right, pink is the new beige. Food for thought next time you try to squeeze that muffin top down to size.
And I'd like to emphasize you don't have to be overweight to have a muffin top. In fact, women who've been thin their entire lives often develop them in their mid-40s after menopause hits, and they say, like, it's obviously the hormonal balance. As that shifts, your estrogen levels go down and progesterone goes up during menopause, plus, you know, the stress at home, cortisol levels because of the lack of sleep. So they say if you have to choose between the gym, otherwise everything being healthy, and sleeping enough, definitely 8 hours of sleep will make a huge difference on that muffin top.
Men too, by the way, not just ladies,
yes,
for the record.
absolutely. And you know, the thing is, it's also a part of the aging body. I mean, our bodies change throughout life, and this is a part of it too.
It's called gravity, right?
Yeah, it's called lots of things. Thank goodness for Spanx.
For men and women.
That's
they come in both.
Thank you, Mina.
Welcome back. Are you ready to get downright domestic? On this episode, we'll show you a series of makeovers and give you tips on how to DIY. Here's our list of 10 terrific transformations. Number 5, a muffin top meltdown.
Everybody's got those problem areas where they store fat that they can't get rid of even with diet and exercise. So there is a procedure that can help you with that, and Karen is going to have it done.
I'm getting a procedure called TiteFx, and it basically sort of like melts my fat, or emulsifies my fat so that I don't have this little muffin top that I'm trying to get rid of.
I think we all have a little bit of a pot.
This device is called the TiteFx. It's by a company called Invasix and Body Tight, and it is the newest of our fat melters. It takes radio frequency electrical current, which has been around a long time, and allows us to tune it to safely and effectively melt internal fat, and then also treat cellulite, that lumpy, bumpy.
It's almost like a miracle. Melt that fat away.
Yes. If you look at the bottom of this, it has 2 radio frequency electrodes. It'll have a strong suction that draws the skin up into this chamber. Radio frequency energy travels between the fat envelope, and it sends high voltage pulses as well as warming current into the fat cell, and the skin is protected. The fat cell can't survive that kind of energy and it dies, but not quickly, a liposuction type of death, but over a couple of weeks it will die. And we do a treatment a week for average 6 to 8, some areas 10 weeks, and we can see about a 4-centimeter improvement.
I do feel the definite results from it so far.
You've done this procedure before?
Yes, this is going to be my 4th treatment.
And you've already seen results?
Yes, I've seen about an inch.
How long does this whole procedure take?
In general, it takes about 20 minutes to treat an area being a lower tummy or 2 hips or your outer thighs, so about 20 minutes. So if most women come in here for 2 or 3 problems, they can treat all of them in an hour.
So really, if you planned ahead, you could have this booked, maybe 6 weeks, 2 months before you go on holidays so that you could get into your bikini.
Okay, so again, you can feel that nice warmth, and that's going to be melting your block of butter there.
Number 8, an under-eye pump-up.
A haircut is a great mini makeover, but there's also some non-invasive cosmetic procedures you can do on your lunch hour. Dr. Mulholland, when I look in the mirror, I feel like I'm starting to look tired as I get older. I don't really care about looking older as long as I don't look tired.
That's a very common complaint. In your early 30s to mid 40s, you start to look in the mirror and go, wow, I work out, I exercise, I diet, but who is that person?
Yeah.
You're seeing the first signs of the first D. So right here, you see that little hollow right there? I'm using my eyebrow liner.
Yeah.
And right here, you start to look like your eye is sunken. And even if you get a lot of sleep, that will look deflated. One of the most common things I inject is Voluma, because Voluma lasts up to 2 years.
Okay.
And it used to be in the old days with Restylane or basic Juvederm, we're talking 6 months. Well, no one wants to run in every 6 months. So if you can have a product that lasts a year and a half or 2 years, that's really optimal.
That's amazing.
So I'm going to put you back and relax you a little bit here. I'm going to make a little access port in your skin. So you're going to feel a sharp pinprick. 1, 2, 3. And needle number 2 is going to go right into our access port. And I get right to where I need to be. I inject a little bit of product, a little bit of volume in that area where you're a bit deficient. You're doing beautifully here. So if we do this well, you should have a nice little pop here that just says, wow, I look so much more rested. Excellent, you did great. We've had a chance to ice things down and compress it a bit. I want you to take the mirror.
Okay.
We'll have the big reveal. Here is your Rebecca transformation.
Oh my gosh.
Doesn't that look great?
That is amazing. That's great.
Now, it's easy to top up. I don't overfill because it'll absorb water over the next 24 hours.
Okay.
And it's easy to take down if it absorbs too much water. So you usually leave the office going, wow, that looks great. Look in the mirror. In fact, if you look in the mirror, I'm going to put a tiny bit more right there.
Okay.
I think you need a tiny bit more right there compared to this side where it looks very flat and corrected. So tiny bit more right here, but overall looks pretty darn good.
Jennifer, I must say you're looking younger today.
Yes.
How old do you think I look?
Okay, no, loaded question. Don't even answer.
Yeah,
Don't. It's a trap, Frank.
Yeah, you look 20.
Don't even do that.
Hey,
It's a trap.
thank you.
See?
My daughter knows how to answer that question. She will tell me I look 25. She will tell you I am 25.
Well, that's because you've told her you're 25. What are you doing today?
It's true. She's going to start to figure it out when she gets a little older and,
when she's 25.
Maybe she's 27 and I'm still telling people I'm 25. We are spending the morning with Dr. Stephen Mulholland at Spa Medica, and we were talking about the latest and greatest in non-surgical procedures, including something called Voluma, which sort of, shall I say, inflates your face when it deflates.
Oh.
After it's... When you need a little, need a little lift in your face. This is a non-surgical procedure. We're going to be showing it this morning on breakfast television. But you know what I always say, as you get a little older, you have to gain a little weight. That's good news for women because you want to have, just a little bit more in your face.
All right,
so.
Thank you, Jenna. Look forward to that.
You know what happens to men when we gain too much weight?
No problem.
What's that?
We grow extra chins.
There you go. Trying to get rid of mine right now. We'll be back.
Good morning, everyone. We are at Spa Medica this morning, and we're going to be doing some non-surgical procedures this morning. I told you about one earlier on. We're also going to be doing, in the first segment, something called Face Tight. It's exactly the way it sounds. It's a procedure that tightens your face. And Kev, they have lots of things here for men as well. Men get the same things as women. Botox, hair transplants, whatever you want. We're at Spa Medica this morning, and we'll see you when we come back.
And we will be back at 6:54 on Breakfast Television.
Welcome back to Breakfast Television. It is 7:11. So Jen Valentine has been at the Live Eye this morning, and she is at Spa Medica. So Jen, this is what I want you to do. If Dr. Mulholland is there, I want you to tell him a big thank you for the Latisse. Latisse is something you put on your eyelashes, and it makes them grow. And I was skeptical, and I started using it, and you can't tell now because I have fake eyelashes over top. But if I took off the fake eyelashes, you would see how long my real eyelashes have become because of Latisse. I know you're there looking at a lot of non-invasive procedures, and they just get better every single year.
They really do. You know, Tracy, I'm going to tell Dr. Mulholland that in a minute, but there's lots of things that you can do just to give yourself a fresher look, like a photofacial or microdermabrasion, non-surgical procedures. But we're going to do one today. If you're a little bit queasy, you might want to turn. We're going to turn at one point. But come on over here. Let's talk about it first with Dr. Stephen Mulholland. Tracy Moore wants to thank you for Latisse, for that made her eyelashes grow. That really works.
It really does. Just topical application, 40% longer, 40% thicker. And so you can wake up with that doughy, glowy sort of eyelash.
Oh, very, very pretty. And you always look good. When you have longer eyelashes, it really does make a difference in your appearance.
Yeah, it's a very youthful thing to have long, lush eyelashes, for sure.
The procedure that we're doing today, this is Jane, by the way, a country karaoke singer. We've been chatting. What's your song of choice again?
Guitar's Cadillac by Dwight Yoakam.
We're going to have to get you to sing that on the show sometime. Loves karaoke. Woo! What's the procedure?
We're going to do what's called Face Tight, and it's a little device. This is what it looks like. And as we were talking earlier, this is like ironing your skin. So if you've lost weight or you've lost skin tone and you've exercised, you've dieted, you can't bring that tightness back after after weight loss just with age. This is like ironing your skin.
We're ironing those wrinkles away.
Exactly right. The internal electrode of Face Tight goes under your skin, so you have to have local anesthetic like going to a dentist, and then we just go snap, 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 and without any cutting or any scars, you get tighter skin.
Okay, so we're going to turn the camera away when you enter the skin, just so people are a little bit queasy. So look over there, everyone. And what are we setting this to?
We're setting it to a specific temperature, so it constantly heats the temperature safely and effectively. So patients who do this procedure can literally go back to work the next day.
Okay, you know what? Let's take a look at the before and after while you do the entry. So this is a before picture right at the top here, and then right at the bottom, before is at the bottom, obviously, and then the after is right at the top. So this is the results that you can get with this procedure. Okay, you have entered the skin. What are you doing?
So what I'm doing right now is I'm slowly moving. Jane's in no pain. There's local anesthetic. And I'm basically applying heat under the skin. We've spent so many years developing techniques that heat on top of the skin. This is the first device that safely and effectively heats under the skin, which is far more efficient way to tighten. And so I move back across the area, and the heating tightens the collagen, tightens the elastin, the fibers that give our skin youth. And there's no bruising, no downtime. Patients generally go back to work the next day. And one treatment, it's not a series of treatments, a single treatment to bring back skin tightening and skin health. So the Face Tight's been very, very popular.
One treatment, you can go back to work that day, not very invasive at all. This is a new procedure that you've been doing for about 11 months now. So what have the results been like over the last 11 months? What have people told you? What have you seen?
Well, it's been great because I'm showing the neck here today, which is very common, but loose skin of the upper arm or of the upper tummy after babies, or of the inner thigh, or above the knee. Techniques and procedures where in the past, as plastic surgeons, we go, oh, we have nothing for you. Now we can tighten skin.
So you can do this under the arm too?
Yes, that loose, that sort of bat wing skin, you can tighten that. Anywhere where you have loose skin and you're really not interested in a real surgical procedure, this is a great opportunity for tightening under local anesthetic.
And it doesn't hurt?
Jane, what's it?
No, I don't feel anything.
She'll be singing karaoke tonight. We'll see you when we come back. Non-surgical procedures this morning at Spa Medica, Kev. Hey guys, thanks very much. Lots of fun in the lobby this morning. Today we are at Spa Medica, getting ready for the summer with non-surgical procedures with Dr. Stephen Mulholland. We are doing a procedure that is going to help us with the belly fat, but it will help us in other areas as well.
Yeah, this is called the TiteFx, and like the name implies, it gives you a tight effect. And it's a fat melter, fat of cellulite, fat of wiggly jiggly areas like the tummy, the pot, the saddlebags, the arms, inner thighs. Summer is coming, so tough to lose areas again with diet and exercise, but you don't want to do liposuction. This is the kind of technique that is very compelling for patients heading into summer with that troublesome area.
Yes, this is a troublesome area for a lot of women and men too. You can see a definite difference here. And is this the first procedure?
Yeah, this is Laurel's first procedure. You can see there's still the bulge on the other side. You get a flattening. The TiteFx emits a high voltage electrical current. It's very comfortable compared to other techniques, but it kills the fat cell in a safe way that your body can then metabolize it. So it's really very few contraindications. There's really no risks, and it's a series of treatments once a week for several weeks, and 3 or 4 centimeters would be the average reduction.
Okay, how much approximately a price range would something like this procedure cost you for this area?
When you look at the non-surgical treatments like TiteFx, generally they're less than half the cost of liposuction. So for a series of treatments on your tummy, it might cost you $1,500 to $2,000, or about what it costs for Jenny Craig or a Bernstein program. But you get to get a focal loss of contour. Like if you look at the before and afters here.
Yeah, and you always take before and afters
always,
when you with your patients, and these ones have definitely they've signed off. So let's take a look at this one because there's a definite difference.
Again,
here.
tummy, bra line, hip, very common areas. And clearly weight loss will be a component of that strategy for this patient, but if she tried everything and this was her weight, she'll feel much better in tight blouses or summer garments, summer wear. Same with this lady, a couple of kids, the tummy's a problem for her, and this is just a safe, non-surgical way to slim frustrating areas after weight loss, babies, and it's a tough thing to do on your own sometimes.
What does it feel like, Laura?
Feels like a mild electrical shock, but it's not. It's fairly comfortable.
Okay, good stuff. And we'll let you continue because we don't want you to be lopsided, just on one side and not the other. So we'll leave you to it. We don't want her to be lopsided, do we? Back to the station. Good morning. We are back at Spa Medica with Dr. Stephen Mulholland. We've been doing non-surgical procedures, getting us ready for the summer. Nobody wants surgery.
Yeah, very few people are going to have a surgical procedure. The vast
Some people
majority,
will,
some do.
Some don't need it.
Right, and you're absolutely right. You can nowadays with products like Juvederm Voluma and Botox and our photofacials, you can look 5 to 7 years younger forever without ever undergoing a scalpel-based procedure. It's kind of neat.
We were talking about weight loss, and when women or men lose weight when they get older, their face sort of sinks in. You should always be a little bit heavier, just because of your face. But we can do something non-surgical to plump up our face.
So as we age, you're right. Deflation from natural aging, or you exercise, you look great from the collarbone down, but gaunt and older from the collarbone up. So bringing back volume is one of the tenets of a youthful look and what we try to do in plastic surgery. The problem has been bruising. And so what I wanted to show today is this would be an example of a needle. We aren't going to do the injection, but you can see on the right would be the old-fashioned type of needle, which is sharp. And that would lead to bruising. Now we use these blunt tip microcannulas, and I can do lips, cheeks, inject anywhere on the face, and the
what
patient
are
could
you
go out that day.
injecting?
Usually we're using products that are safe and reversible. One of the most popular right now is Juvederm Voluma. Voluma will last up to 2 years.
Wow, that's a long time.
It is a long time. But if you thought it was too much, you need to adjust it, you can reverse it or take it down a bit. It's a
Lena's had stuff done on one side of her face. We can see it before and after here. What have you done with Lena?
Well, you can see that she's an exerciser. She keeps fit, and she was looking very hollow under the eyes, a bit tired, gone gaunt looking, and we injected a little bit of a Juvederm under the eyes, across the cheeks, subtle, but yet she looks rested, she looks fresh. And then you can match your face to your body if you happen to have lost weight or exercised your way into fitness and your face looks deflated.
And so what side are we looking at?
So if you look here, I injected about an hour ago her cheek and her lips. Now in the past, her lips would be horribly swollen. She'd have to take the day off work. But with the blunt microcannula technique, you can inject products in the face and makeup on, you could go right back to work.
There you go. Thank you so much, Dr. Stephen Mulholland at Spa Medica. Another procedure when we come back. Back to you.
Thank you so much. Good for you.
Thanks very much, Tracy. Good morning. We are back with Dr. Stephen Mulholland at Spa Medica, getting ready for the summer. Some non-surgical procedures. What are you doing right now, Dr. Mulholland?
I'm doing a procedure called the Fractura and the Firm. This uses tiny, tiny little microscopic needles and electrical current, and it creates little tiny pores and channels in the skin with the electrical current. And then I'll take some antioxidant type serum, and we'll put that on the skin. This is ferulic acid, which is a very good antioxidant. We're heading into summer, sun damage, brown spots, wrinkles. And then once it's on the skin, we'll take a device called the Firm. So the first one put little holes in the skin, microscopic.
Yes.
The second one actually moves in circles and pushes that product into the skin. So it penetrates, it opens up little pores, takes the skincare product, which is good unto its own, and pushes it deep into the dermis. The overall goal is tightening, firming, and wrinkle reduction, which is the Fractura Firm does. We did this side of her face already, and you can see it's a little pink, the cheek is full, there's a little ultrasound gel, but again, the type of procedure where makeup goes on, you can go back to work. It would be a series of treatments.
Really?
Yeah, once a week for about 4 or 5 weeks, and you can usually take 4 or 5 years off. You can see these.
4 or 5 years?
Yeah, a year a week. So 4 or 5 weeks, 4 or 5 years.
Okay,
and again,
let's take a look. I really want to see some before and after.
so you can see this would be a lot of sun damage, fine lines and wrinkles, and the Fractura facial evens out the wrinkles, firms the skin, and again, you can see the tremendous improvement in the quality of the skin.
Very nice. We got it over here as well.
And this individual over here, you can see the jawline, heavy jowls.
Yes.
And without any surgery, we can, and with the face tape we talked about earlier, still goes under the skin. This is a treatment on top of the skin to improve the contour and shape of the face and the appearance of fine lines and wrinkles.
Yeah, you can really get a closer look right here.
Yeah, tremendous texture improvement. So I would leave with this parting word. We're heading into summer.
Yes.
Stay out of the sun, and if you're going to be in the sun, wear a hat or wear sunblock, or you're going to need these treatments as well.
Okay, so that's really good advice. Wear a hat this summer, wear sunscreen. That is the most important thing that you can do for your skin. But there's always Dr. Mulholland. Thanks so much, Dr. Mulholland here at Spa Medica. For more information, just go to breakfasttelevision.ca and we'll have all the information. Back to the station.